What is this shift?
Welcome, shifties.
Welcome to
Shift
Shift Hit the Fan.
Yeah.
My name is Avra. I am a resident physician. The end.
And I'm Elias, the body alchemist, transforming my life and others through interacting with the body.
We also have Brian, which you kind of saw right there. Took all my thoughts away. Brian is my brain. Sometimes mention Brian. So, Brian Reynolds, also a co host.
We have a beautiful episode for you with the Seven of Swords and the Two of Cups as our hidden energy. Yeah, reverse Two of Cups.
Yeah. And we're using the Marsh Smith, Twitchy Witch Marsh Smith deck, which I will link in the description.
Yeah.
Enjoy the show.
Yeah. Juggling all the swords, leaving some behind. Balance of the femininity and the masculine. If we go in reverse, then it's the balance is falling out of place. That feels pretty in line with me. Juggling all the things and the balance is not in place.
It's like you're carrying all these thoughts, but your attention is really somewhere else.
Looking behind.
On these thoughts, you're really not ready to own and pick up, but they're also standing on their own.
Yeah, which means that they don't need to be picked up.
Yeah. It's probably like my court case and money coming in. I don't need to worry about those. Those are good. I can actually look back and reflect on those because those are complete. They're standing on their own. I don't need to do anything about them. Now I just got to work on this stuff that's in my hand. Because he's kind of got a smile on his face as he looks back on them.
Yeah.
Got his thinking cap on, red shoes to match. I kind of see a face in those shoes too, in the one shoe in front. It's like even his shoes got something to say. Also made me think of how I'm revisiting old content that I used to listen to. 'Cause Napoleon Hill, the author of Think and Grow Rich. He, no, you never read Think and Grow Rich? I used to read that stuff all the time, because I wanted to read everything that rich people were writing. Successful people, just emulating what the people that I thought were doing well, that were successful in a way that I wanted to be back when I was money motivated, probably because I was living with a rich woman. So that influenced my thoughts. So when I saw he had a book called Outwitting the Devil, because I knew his writing before, I didn't assume that it was going to be anything religious. I just assumed it was going to be about how to outsmart that little inner voice that tells you I can't, or, getting out ahead of your patterns, your pattern thinking, your destructive thought patterns. Because they say, the reason it's so hard to change a habit is because of, like, as soon as you declare that you want something, all of the opposites starts to show up. So it's learning to outsmart that. It's like you can't tell the left hand what the right hand is doing for the same reason. You don't want to tell the opposite side, the other side of yourself, what you're doing because it's going to try to sabotage you in some way. That's why the things get worse before they get better. It's learning how to change little things every day to get out of your pattern thinking. You've got to first acknowledge that you have a pattern and start catching yourself if you're doing the work. But if there was a way to outsmart it and, get tips about how not to tell it what you're doing and just start doing it, sort of like when I choose not to talk about my symptoms or my conditions or whatever, because I'll go back and forth. Like when I feel like it needs attention and it wants to be called out, I'll talk about it. But other times I just, once it's been acknowledged, I just don't tell myself what I'm doing anymore. And it's about having that discernment of when to do it and when not. So it kind of reminded me of like that looking back, like I have some secrets back there that I know stand well. I actually wrote this in one of my writings from when I first moved back to California. It was something like, do I really know the stuff that I've learned, or do I think I know it because I learned them before brain damage? and because I remember them. So it's been like I've been taking for granted all these things that I knew that I was solid in, that I knew were effective, but in application now after brain damage and with brain fog, it's been very different to apply them. This is another reason I wanted to revisit those things that used to work for me to see how they would land now. And it's different. It was different. Can I bring, the parts that actually worked into what I'm carrying now with the new knowledge that I have? So what you thinking?
There's a lot of beautiful thoughts there. I think for me, what I've been looking at is just this juggling act. Like I've been running around all over the place doing all the different things, and I've been exhausted. Yesterday, I had this, I had a kind of a, I had to take a rest day yesterday because I was so tired that I couldn't, like, I woke up at 7 but couldn't get out of bed until 11, and just mentally dead, not functional. And so for me, it was like juggling around these sharp swords while I'm enjoying it so much, enjoying getting to use my body, enjoying it to getting to just do all these different things. It's also exhausting. Like there's a limit to my body, and and I put myself out of balance, and so I had to find that place of balance. So the two of cups in reverse for me was like looking at that, it was like I'm out of balance in what I'm doing, and I need to allow my body to tell me how to find that balance. And so that's kind of what I was really looking at for me is, yeah, I can pursue all these passions, I can pursue all these different things that I want to do and run myself ragged, but there's a limitation. I always find that with exercise really annoying. Like I just want to move my body and I want to do stuff and do more and do more and do more. But then my body's like, yeah, we're done. I can't do this anymore. So I got to find that balance of like, all right, I can rest. I can stop doing this now. But I liked what you were saying with like the Seven of Swords. There's two swords behind him that are balanced by themselves. And I think that's an important thing to remember is that we don't need to touch all the different things. We don't need to do everything. There are things that we can just let go. So me selling my house right now and me trying to see my girls more, there's just certain things that I can't control, that I can't force to have to happen. And so I can do what's in my power to juggle what I have in front of me, but then I get to allow the universe or just allow time and other energies to take care of what I can't take care of. And so those two swords, those thoughts, those energies that are we're thinking of, we can just let it go and know and trust that it'll be taken care of in the end. And I think sometimes something that I've been finding is that it's okay to talk about them. It's okay to repeat them. It's okay to have those things go through our thoughts, but at the same time doesn't recognize, hey, I'm having these thoughts, I'm having these feelings, I'm having these emotions. This thing's annoying, this thing's frustrating. And it's okay to let that go. Like I don't have to do anything about it now. It's okay to just feel and just recognize that I have these things going on in my mind. And so I really like those two swords just sitting there, reminding us that there's balance in everything, that we don't have to find the balance. We don't have to make things happen. They will balance themselves out.
I like that you brought up balance because that's another thing that came up when I was listening to the book. The outwitting the devil is this devil is just negative energy. Everything that we refer to as negative, the bad or whatever. And this energy distinguished himself from the mythological or biblical devil. And he distinguished the positive, which is what we call God, as just energies. But what I was left with afterwards is like we keep saying that there's just these two things and we want to try to find a balance, but we act like it's just the two things when there's also neutrality. And I don't think anybody talks about neutrality because I don't think it's the same thing as balance because you can take in, I think it's like what how people define being confident. Like you're not swayed either way, regardless of what people's opinions are of you, right? You know who you are, you know where you stand, you're so centered in yourself. So it's like that centeredness, it's the confidence or what appears as confidence. It's the knowing that you have, like where you can I've actually guided us through um in the Blossom Alchemy thing that I did. That was the very first things I wanted us to get centered by focusing our the things that were hurting and bring them into our core, our center. But first we cleared that center, right? And so whatever we brought in, we would just unconditionally focus here, focus here, focus here, focus here until they both felt the same, right? So that's bringing neutrality to our pain. That's giving it unconditional attention, good or bad. We could do it with anything. And that's not necessarily balance. It's integration. It's the healing power of neutrality. And I think that's what we're being called to do now, especially with all of the news that even if you're not watching the news, you're constantly hearing it from other people who are talking about the news in panic and being worried and all this, you know. It's like we're being called to remember to just observe because when we give that negative attention to negativity, we're giving it power. We're giving it what it wants. We're giving away our power, and that makes it stronger. So it's like that's the opportunity. We're using the Twitchy Witch Marsmith deck, by the way. That's the way that we're looking at this is like I can carry all this stuff with a smile on my face. I can hold all of your stuff too. Like because I'm thinking about what you're putting out there. I'm learning how to hold it because of the stuff that I'm holding with, you know, with what's going on with my friend. That was her opinions, her stuff, but I'm carrying the weight of it and I'm learning how to hold it. So I'm looking back at this information that I have to remind me if I can bring neutrality and keep my power with this stuff that was heavy, that the stuff that was really like completely changed my life. I lost my life from this, but I also gained my life. So it's being able to recognize the where you are, what you've gained from these really impactful experiences, I think. You know, just to bring it to a a heavier, bigger conversation. I think that for me is where I've been out of not just out of balance, but not being neutral and forgetting this is what I've been trying to look back at and remember is everything's going to be okay and everything's just happening for me. I'm going to get something out of this, some sort of growth. It's actually been really beneficial to have the extra rest that I wouldn't have gotten otherwise because I would have been pushing myself more and more. I've just been forced to rest more because my body's, I guess I'm just paying attention to my body now more than before. I'm even losing weight from,
I was wondering about that. I felt like you were lighter.
yeah, I think I've lost, I have it here. I've been keeping track. And I usually don't care about that stuff, but I've been very curious about it. I have lost 19 pounds.
Nice.
Yeah.
Just this conversation of neutrality is interesting. With some of the things you were saying, it brings me back to the saying that I have that fighting conflict with conflict just leads to more conflict. And we've talked about that a number of times. But if you can find that neutral place within yourself, and this is a martial arts principle as well, especially like Eastern martial arts, like if you can bring the neutrality into yourself where you can recognize emotion, you can hold those different things, but you're neutral to it. Like there might be emotion going on, but you are separating that from your actions or from your sense of being. It allows you to act and react and interact with in a way that is more conducive to a peace. And so with like Sistema, the martial art that I practice, the idea is that if someone's coming at me with conflict, if I can utilize my breath, if I can utilize my energy to neutralize my own inner conflict, then when I'm interacting with them, I am depleting their own conflict. And so if I deliver a strike, if I deliver a punch, it's in a way that they no longer want to fight me because I haven't given them any conflict or tension to feed off of. And so they come at me and they're like, they hit it, they receive a strike and they're like, oh, I'm relaxed now. I don't have that inner conflict inside of me anymore. It's like I've hit the point of tension that, and I broke that point of tension. And so they don't want to keep going. And that's kind of the idea, the principle behind some of that. But with that idea of neutrality, something that I experienced while practicing Sistema was that my relaxation was a dismemberment. So I would just disassociate from my body and like let all of my body pieces just spread out and they weren't connected anymore. And so neutrality in its power is an act of connecting. And so if I am neutral inside my body, with power, my whole body needs to be connected. My arms need to be connected to my torso, including my hands, my legs. Everything needs to be relaxed but connected. And that relaxation allows fluidity, while the connection allows the power to flow, the energy to flow through the the whole body. And I think that that same principle goes with what's happening in the world, the news, politics. We can disassociate from those things and we can find neutrality there, or we can gather as a whole. And I think that's something that you've really focused on, is really gathering everything as a whole, seeing the politics, seeing the information that's coming through, and just holding that and saying this is just what's happening. And I think that's a beautiful way to really integrate ourselves with the world, with life and what's happening, so that the conflict ends with you, but you're not doing so in a way that you're disassociating or disconnecting from it. You're doing it in a way that says the whole world is a part of me, and I feel the whole world, and I feel everybody who is hurting, and the people that are also joyful, and I can hold all that emotion and all those events inside of who I am, and then I can end the conflict right there. And that doesn't mean that we're not fighting still, but the conflicting fight is gone.
Not just like, and that's what I was going to say too, not just this is what's happening, but this is what's happening within me. Because if we're all one, and I just want to keep this in mind, because I think it's a being like, because we don't know if that's just, it's a theory as well, right? That we're all one, that we're all connected. Who knows what science is going to discover or spirituality is going to discover in the future. But for now, it's really powerful, it's palpable. We can feel it. We notice when it's almost like telepathic communication, right? When you're thinking of somebody and they suddenly call you, or you don't know which started what. Like, did I think of them first, or did I think of them because they were going to call? So I always want to look at things from that aspect. If and keep testing it from that aspect. If we are connected, and if I can change something from within me to impact what's going on outside, I want to know what's going on outside, because that's also, I feel those things somewhere in my body. And I can even ask, where does this conflict, where does this war, where does this genocide, where does this dictator or a tyrant live within me? Where is that, and where can I heal it? How can I have my healing impact what's going on out in the world? And that for me is why it's not just to observe it, but like, what Soma has been talking about too, a couple of the episodes, is if we just watch it, it'll just fizzle, right? Without adding our own emotions to it, without it's to learn to bring neutrality to that. And like you said, it's not a detachment. It's not a, well, it is a detachment, but if you have to sort of like, it's not being detached, right? It's knowing that this, while it's me, it's not me, right? Like I have like I don't know if I've talked about naming my mental committee on the podcast yet, but I have, I give my aspects of myself names. Like I have this list of names because it's like I want to know where the patterns are and where the observer is. Where is self and where are the things that I just carry in my body? So I give them all names. And I have a big old list of names of all of my characters. Like there's a one that's a pattern maker. I call her Megan, Meagan. So it's like me again. And they're all, funny names like that. The one who's like responsible for the streams of thoughts, I called him Long P. P spelled P-I. I think it's a Chinese last name. Because I actually, and some of these are names that I actually heard and I thought were so funny that I was like, yep, that's I'm going to use that name. So yeah, it's just a way to sort of organize things so that I know where I am and so that I from that place where I am, where self is self with a capital S, I can hold and observe and know that it's all a part of me, that it's all me and my connection to the outside world.
I think something that I look at with this idea of attachment and connection, because we can get really mixed up in like what does that actually mean? What does that mean for different things? And I think being detached or being attached to something to me feels like it's almost like it's dragging you around type of thing. Like you've given it control over your body. But I don't know that attachment and detachment is quite the right word for it. I really like being connected or disconnected because if I'm connected to something, I can be connected to it in so many different ways. And I think of like a dog leash, like a retractable dog leash. The dog can go about and has a certain limitation of how far away it can go from me, but I'm not being pulled around by the dog unless the dog's super crazy and energetic and at the end of its leash, in which case you bring it closer to you so it can learn to stay by you and control itself. But I want to take that a step further and think about the idea of meaning. What does it mean to you? What weight does it hold to you? And if you look at the word mean, it's an average. It holds a weight, a certain weight aspect to it. And so when you give meaning to something, you're giving it weight in your life. You've defined something, you solidified something in your mind. And so that weight will be able to have energy to pull you around and give your mind momentum for some specific this whatever meaning you've given something, whatever label you've given it. And so can we connect to something and learn to have like a flexible meaning to it when we have a meaning that we need, or we have maybe we have a label that we need to or that we would like to give weight to allow it to have energy to move forward, and we solidify that meaning a little bit. But if that meaning is so solid and so heavy that it's getting in the way of interacting with others and connecting with others, then we need to find a way to let that meaning go so that we can feel light again, so we can feel relaxed and without tension and find that neutrality. And so I really think about that is that if we're really like we talk about attachment and detachment, if we're too attached, then we've given something too much meaning and it's going to whip us around. But if we're connected, then we're feel it, we hold it. We don't necessarily need to be whipped around by it, but we know what's going on with that connection in our life. And so I was thinking of that just now as you were talking about detachment.
Mhm. I love the visual of the dog on a leash because I think that's like the perfect way to describe like how I even said like the way that I see it. I've said recently that I feel like what I've been doing in naming all of these aspects of myself is just creating Pokemon. So it's like having these Pokemon on a leash, right? I get to say how long the leash is. You know, I know that they're their own little thing that exists with their own life. And we've talked about that as well. Like these things are just beings. They have their own expression. They have their own wisdom. They have their own things to teach us. They're not necessarily us, but we're still connected by that cord, by the leash, right? That's like, but we can either cling to that or let it run free. Is this going to be my little pet, my little ally, my friend, or am I going to observe it and let it go and live its life somewhere else? And I love that visual of, yeah, I get to say, am I going to keep it close? Am I going to hold on to it? What am I going to learn from it? You know, by observing it. But that's its own little. So there's different little monsters and cute little things and just like big old powerful things. They've all got their little life. It's from the tiniest thing to the biggest, but it's all what you're connected to either by choice or because it is you. Because it's either, I think the leash would be the attachment to it. Like, I want to keep this one, even though I'm letting it think it's got 9 feet or 6 feet of freedom. I'm gonna keep it close by.
Well, I think we did a beautiful I led a beautiful meditation one day where focused on our manifestation, our desires of our heart, and we gave them life, and then we let them go to be whatever creation that they want to be. Like, we gave them their own life and their own freedom. We've manifested this thing, and now we have to let it grow on its own. And similar to children, if you want children to really be successful and free in life, you have to give them their freedom. You have to allow them to make their own choices. And they're going to do that regardless. Like, you can be forceful about it, you can be controlling, you can try to make sure that they're doing everything exactly the right way, but they still need to make those choices for themselves. And they might be choosing your own conditioning that you're giving them because of the force that you're putting behind what you want. But if you really want them to be conscious and free and connected to life, you have to find ways to connect to them and give them that freedom and give them that understanding and give them that ability to see and have consciousness. And so I think that's the same way with anything that we have going in life. We have to allow that freedom to be, if even some hard things like divorce, where a spouse is choosing to go a different way, we have to allow them that freedom to be who they want to be. And sometimes that hurts us. It hurts us to see somebody else hurt, or it hurts us to unattach ourselves from that freedom that they deserve. But in doing so, we feel like we increase the positive beauty that is on this earth, to allow someone to create the life that they want to create.
Yeah, I don't know if I have any more.
Okay. And we end there. Thank you, Shifties, for being so wonderful, and hope you guys learned lots from this. Share your thoughts and comments with us on social media.
Yes, please give us your opinions. They are me anyways, so I want to know. I want to know what I think of me.
There you go.
All right. Love you, shifties.
Love
And
y'all.
let the shift hit the fan. Let the shift hit the fan.